Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen. Today I'm going to make a sausage and shrimp stew that is going to seem really familiar to a lot of people around the world. This is something that I have eaten in Goa, India, and Goa is the Portuguese part of India. I have eaten it in Louisiana, and I've seen it on the menu on the Caribbean coast of Mexico as well. So in this pot I've put some chicken stock, and this is a bottle of clam liqueur or clam juice. And I'm just going to bring this up to a simmer. Into that same pot, I'm going to add the shells from the shrimp that I'm using. So I've taken the shells off, and I'm going to put them in here, and I want to get the flavor from the shrimp shells into that stock. So that'll just simmer away while we're doing everything else. Now, one of the variables in this dish is the type of sausage that you use. This is a Spanish chorizo. And Spanish chorizo is different than Mexican chorizo. This is fermented, dried, and smoked. It has quite an interesting and distinct flavor from Mexican chorizo. Mexican chorizo comes from this originally. I've also had this dish with the Portuguese version of chorizo. I've had this dish with French andouille, which is completely different than Louisiana andouille, which I've also had as well. I mean, those are two sausages, again, that share a name and a common ancestry, but are completely different in flavor. Really, you could use any sort of cured smoked sausage in this. You could use kielbasa if what you have is kielbasa. I don't think you need to be beholden to any one exact style of sausage. Same way that I'm using shrimp today, you don't need to use shrimp. I've seen this made with langoustines. I've seen it made with clams. I've seen it made with mussels. I've seen it made with scampi. Really depends where you are on the planet. The framework for this soup is shared by so many cultures. So I don't think there's a wrong way to make it. I think everybody has taken this basic idea, and then as they've moved globally, they've adapted it to what's available to them in every place. So I'm heating up this pot. I've got some oil in the bottom of the pot, and I just want to fry off this sausage. This style of sausage doesn't need to be cooked. You can eat it raw because it is cured. So really what I'm doing here is just trying to get some flavor into the bottom of the pot and maybe brown up the sausage a little bit to do some caramelization on it. Now, once this sausage has got a little bit of browning on it and we've got some nice color in the bottom of the pot, I'm going to pull it out and set it aside. So just take it out and put it in this bowl. And then next in, I have a mix of onion, celery, green pepper, and some red hot chilies. So those go in, and we just saute them until they're softened. Now, once the onion and the other vegetables have softened up a little bit, I'm going to crush in some garlic. You could put the garlic in any way you want. If you really want to cut this up on your cutting board, go right ahead. I kind of like using the garlic press. Okay, so that goes in. Next in is a little bit of cayenne pepper. Put that in, not too much. And we'll just stir that around. This is a dish that comes together really quickly, in my opinion anyway. So now that I've got all of that veg softened, I'm going to put in some tomatoes. And ideally you would crush in some fresh tomatoes. This is November 2020. We are still in the grips of that pandemic. And, you know, sometimes I go to the grocery store and I look at the fruits and vegetables, where normally I would expect fruits and vegetables all year round, anything I want at any time. Supply lines are still a little bit screwed up. And so I looked at the tomatoes today and they weren't very good. And in my opinion, I'd rather have canned tomatoes than not very good fresh tomatoes. And let's face it, tomatoes that have spent a week in a truck traveling from the other side of the planet really aren't that good. So that's come together nicely. Now we put the sausage back in. And we pour in our stock. And the shrimp shells can stay in the pot. We don't need them anymore. They've given all the flavor they have to give to the dish. So keep them behind. Now this just simmers on the stove for a little while, say about a half an hour. We want it to thicken up a little bit, and we want all of those flavors to come together. And this is where we add the next ingredient, which is a pea or a bean. And depending on where I've seen this, I've seen fava beans, I've seen Roma beans, I've seen different types of peas. Today, because COVID, what I found were, I was looking for fava beans, but what I found was edamame. So I'm going to put in edamame. I think that'll be just fine. I really like them, and I think in this soup, stew, whatever we want to call it, they're going to hold up really well. So I'm going to put those in. When I had it in Goa, it had beans and rice. It was very interesting with a long sort of basmati rice in it. Fantastic. So you could put rice in it as well. And rice is really going to thicken this up if you put it in and let it cook in the stew rather than cooking the rice and then putting it in the stew. So I'm just going to let this simmer for about 20 minutes, and then I'll come back and we'll put the shrimp in. Now, about 15 minutes before you serve this is when you want to put the shrimp in, or whatever seafood you desire to put in here. It really doesn't take long to cook these. So I'm going to put them in, and I also understand that the shrimp will be a little bit overcooked tomorrow when you serve it again as a leftover. It's really not that big of a deal. So I'm going to stir these in. We've got just a bare simmer going. So I'm going to put the lid on, and you just cook until the shrimp are pink. Hey, Jules.
Hey, Glenn. Hey, friends.
Shrimp and sausage stew.
That is going to need both a spoon
and a fork.
And a fork.
And a fork. Yep.
I'm a little tongue-tied today.
Yeah, I mean, I could have cut down the shrimp a little bit to make it more spoon-friendly, but everybody loves a giant piece of shrimp. Okay. It's hot.
It looks hot. It's steamy.
Okay.
Yeah, the bowl's now super hot too. Be careful. That's got a it's got a super hearty flavor to it, and then that really pleasant thing that shrimp brings to a flavor, like kind of a I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, and there's just an undertone of spice depending on the sausage that you're using and how much cayenne you put in. There's just that undertone of spice. I really like that. That's hearty. This is really a hearty winter stew, isn't it? Like it's got all those warming flavors.
It does, with the tomato and it's a very lovely. It's still a little too hot for me physically. I'm gonna let mine sit there, but it's got all the right flavors. It's got fabulous beans, tomatoes, lots of vegetables. Yay!
I really enjoy this. I wish I had a big piece of hearty bread to go with it to dip up the sauce.
Well, you could always whip one up tonight because I think we'll have leftovers.
So give this a try. This is really good. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.